What if you could create a life that you didn't need to escape from? Hi, I'm Cheryl Benadie, the Wholeness Guide, coaching professionals to be future fit by embracing wholeness. And in today's Wholeness at Work episode, I want to ask you the question: what can you do to redesign your work life in 2022? Imagine if you felt sad instead of feeling relieved when you sent your last email for the year. Were you looking forward to your holiday, which would have been a very well-deserved break from the stress and pressure of your job? What if you felt sad to leave the work behind that you actually would do for free? I know, if someone told me this 5 or 10 years ago, I wouldn't have believed them. I believed the narrative that work was supposed to be difficult and work was supposed to be challenging and work was supposed to be painful. I was one of the last people that would leave the office on Christmas Eve and often the first person to be back in January. The truth was that work was kind of my life. I didn't really have much else going on in my life, and work gave me a sense of meaning and a sense of purpose. It was a place where I could experiment and grow and be rewarded in some ways for my efforts. Also, I was in debt, and so I didn't really have many choices. But as I look back now, I see how my interest in training and development was actually a golden thread throughout my career. On weekends, I would volunteer at women's shelters and do workshops. I was able to invite friends and family members to join me on this cause, so when I became a fundraiser, that was like second nature to me. I never thought at the time that being able to train and coach people would actually be something I would get paid for. It was only after my husband and I was able to pay off our debt, that sense of relief of living debt-free actually opened up things that perhaps I was pushing under the surface unknowingly. I noticed a problem in higher education. I'd worked at 3 different universities, and as much as I loved the work I did in bringing together different types of donors with students who needed their support, I couldn't see the solution to the problem of work readiness. Companies would say that it was the university's job, and the universities would say it was the company's job. And in the meantime, there were people who were really struggling once they entered the world of work. So perhaps there's something that you're thinking about that perhaps you volunteer to do, that you enjoy doing, but you haven't thought, this could be actually a way for me to build my real income in the future. Perhaps you haven't been able to connect those dots yet. Or perhaps there's a problem that you've been noticing, there's a gap in the market, something that makes you mad when you see this issue happening. Perhaps it could be gender-based violence, or it could be animal abuse, or it could be any number of things that you feel like someone should do something about this. There might be a way for you to actually make a change on your own, but often it's when life brings about almost a perfect storm that helps us notice which way we should be going. And for me, there were a number of cataclysmic events that happened for me to finally make my decision to leave higher education and try and solve this problem that I was seeing. One of the most devastating events was the sad passing of a student called Mikhail Hendricks. And I talk about him often because he was the person that helped me to see that as much as we were helping to get students finances to be able to study, there was still a human need of strengthening their hearts to be able to know that they had what they needed to operate in the world of work. And I think a lot of graduates are still struggling with that. They are given this narrative of this conventional pathway, but the world has changed. It's no longer the same as it was for our parents or grandparents, but they need a lot more support in navigating these changes. So for the past 3 years, I've been doing the messy work of, number one, becoming a mom, and that also informing my business development process, but realizing that because I was debt free, I had more freedom to be able to take on this risk. I gave my husband more gray hairs in the process, but also now I'm at a point where I'm learning how to take my passion and my ability and my interests and solve real world problems. And you also have something inside of you that is so powerful that perhaps you're even afraid of that. I think that's why a lot of people, as much as they get frustrated and they complain about their managers and they, keep sighing and are frustrated, it's a familiarity that if I let go of, I don't know what to do with this. What if the thing that I really want to do doesn't work out? And that's the thing is, once you're able to connect your purpose to your passion, that becomes your fuel to recreate work. And people around the world are doing this. COVID has kind of put a accelerator on what the fourth industrial revolution was doing in terms of bringing about change, where working from home became the norm, whereas previously people were never going to be able to do that. And so we've been almost forced into a quick shift pattern of either we adapt or we die. And that adaptability is what we need in the future. And sometimes parts of us have to die. My workaholic nature had to be refined so that I could start building a business that fit into my lifestyle and creating products and seeing that I have a voice, I have a message to share, and most importantly, giving myself permission to do that. And I think today that's the big challenge when I speak to coaching clients, when I do group training. I see this come up a lot, is that we don't know that we have the power to write our own script. We think that just because I've chosen the path of perhaps being a postdoc, or I'm now in senior management, or I'm an IT professional, and how can I start, maybe my own bakery, that's what it's called. There is a lot more support for these kind of shifts than there has ever been before, because I'm not saying that every single passion that you have can be monetized, but only the thing in your heart that every time you try and push it down, it keeps coming up again. And then you want to ignore it, but it keeps coming up again. So what is that beach ball for you? What is that thing that you want to spend more time on, but you just haven't given yourself permission to do? So while you are hopefully at the beach this December, or when you have a free moment between all of the family gatherings, I want you to think about these 3 questions. Number 1, what work will I be willing to do for free? Number 2, who do I want to impact with my passions and talents? And number 3, how can I incorporate that work with the people that I care about in a small way in the upcoming year? I'll repeat those. 1, what work will I be willing to do for free? 2, who would I impact with my passion and talents? And 3, how can I incorporate that work with the people that I care about in a small way in the upcoming year? I'm not telling you to resign in January. If you weren't planning that, please don't do that. Speak to your partner, have a plan of action. But actually, transformation is a slow and gradual process. The more that we build our self-awareness of what work makes me come alive, the more we start allowing ourselves to let our head and our heart work together to ask the question, how could this be possible? When I was asking myself these questions, my husband bought me a book called The 10% Entrepreneur by Patrick McGinnis. I'll send you a link in the show notes. And he asked the question, what would my ideal work week look like? Perhaps you've been wanting to spend more time with your kids, and you even have like these thoughts of fantasy of like, what would a 4-day work week look like? And then you quickly dismiss it because of all the fear factors that you have. I want you to give yourself permission to dream this December. Think about what that perfect work week will look like. Would it be, you setting the time when you start work so that you can spend more time with your kids or play tennis or whatever it is that you've been wanting to do? If our soul is full, then our mind is stronger and we can do better work. So that is a book that you could read during this December break, The 10% Entrepreneur by Patrick McGinnis. And he makes a very compelling case study that if you build your side hustle while you are working, it actually makes you a more competent worker. And I saw that in my own life. As I started growing my interest in training and coaching, I would start offering my coaching services to students that I was helping, and I started practicing my coaching with them for free. And I realized I really love this. And you know what? They love it too. So your sweet spot is you love the work you do and others also love the work you do. That's a big sign of a passion. I started training on weekends at a nursery school, and I realized that I loved it. I love putting together material. I love sharing the principles. I love seeing the feedback. And most importantly, I love seeing the lights go on. When people realize how powerful they are, when they realize they have potential, when they realize they have treasure inside of them, when they get switched on, man, that fuels me for hours. I had this amazing high that I could do 3 or 4 workshops. Wouldn't even picture myself going to sleep. That's how amazing it is. But I had to build that road for myself because it wasn't there before. I had to create my own pathway. And I knew the moment I had to resign, it was a very difficult thing, a very difficult decision to make. It had a lot of consequences to my decision. But after 3 years, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad that I took that journey into the unknown because it's made me more who I am. The real Cheryl is getting stronger. All of my years of working in higher education, in publishing, in training, communication, all of that is being used right now. And I've never felt more alive. So yes, I know that I started out this podcast talking about, being on leave. And I'm actually having to force myself to just spend some days away from my laptop because I would do this all the time. I would do this every day, all day. So I want that for you. I want you to find that amazing work that makes you come alive, that, you send me emails and messages and say, Cheryl, I've got it. This is the thing that makes me come alive. Because once you find that, you are going to help so many people with the thing that you're passionate about. So as you reflect on the highs and lows of this year, I want you to appreciate who you are. I want you to celebrate the growth that you've had. And then I want you to dream about what could be possible in 2022. Have a good rest, recreate, and come back strong.